You can't fix internal pain through external means. That's the lie most of us fall for, and today we're going to try to tear that lie apart. Have you ever felt like no matter how much you try to fix things on the outside, something still feels broken? You get the job, you get the partner, you even start to do the work, but it just seems like the peace doesn't last. The anxiety still creeps back in. The emptiness still lingers. What if it's not because you're doing it wrong, but because you're doing it backwards? See, we're taught to live from the outside in. Change your life and then you'll feel better. Control your circumstances and then you'll find peace. But it doesn't work like that. You don't change your life by changing what's around you. You change it by confronting what's already within you. That's what today's episode is about. Not just flipping the script, but learning how to live inside out so your external world finally starts to reflect the internal transformation that you're looking for. So the concept here is that you can't find peace by trying to control the world. You can only do it by mastering what's inside of you, what's going on inside of you. Lasting transformation comes from aligning your inner life first, making sure that your inner life is right, because the external world is always going to reflect either the war or the peace that's going on inside of you. So within your thoughts, within your emotions, how you're thinking and how you're feeling, that is going to end up reflecting your circumstances and situations on the outside. Now, this doesn't mean that you won't ever go through any difficult circumstances if you fix whatever is happening inside of you. There's still suffering that you have to deal with. There's still painful moments that you're going to go through, but it's learning how to handle those in ways that allow you to move through that with a sense of equanimity, a sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of joy, purpose, meaning, feeling gratitude and love. So you can still get through those situations and deal with them, but you'll deal with them in a different way. Instead of being frustrated and angry, instead of holding on to resentment or bitterness, you can deal with those in a different way that allow you to move forward and progress forward in life without having to hold on to them maybe so tight. And that's really what we're going to be going into today and discussing. So one of the issues that we really deal with in our culture, and this has been going on for centuries, for millennia. It's just the idea that people are trying to chase the solutions to the problems through external means as opposed to internal means. Meaning we're going through something or for something out there to try to fix what's going on inside. You can see this everywhere. Most people are going after that nice house or the nice car or getting the promotion at work or becoming somebody who's famous. You know, somebody who makes a lot of money, that entrepreneur or business person who's always in the news because they're so successful, becoming, the president or any of those different things. Like we're chasing these different metrics thinking that, once I get here, then I'm going to feel fulfilled inside within myself. And that just isn't true. That's not how it works. It's learning how to feel good within yourself. So when you go out into the world and you start to achieve some of these different things, you're not left feeling empty or hopeless. Because a lot of times you can get those things and still feel the way that you are, because what ends up happening is you have a certain level of homeostasis that you live at. Just on a regular daily basis, you have a certain thought pattern, belief system, emotional system that you live by. And when you change and start to move up or become successful, whatever that looks like for you, what'll end up happening is it will eventually fall back down to that level of homeostasis. So for instance, a great example is a new car. You get a new car, it's great. How long until that new car isn't so great anymore though? Like it's only going to last for a certain amount of time before you start thinking, I need something else because this has just turned into a rust bucket, And there might not be anything wrong with the car at all. The car might be perfectly fine. You could give that car to somebody else and they would be ecstatic that they got this car because it's so nice. But once you become accustomed to it, once you get used to it and the shine is worn off and you're left with this, thing that felt like it was giving you some sense of fulfillment for, however long, that's gone away. So now you need to fill that with something else. So maybe you get a new car, maybe you buy a new house, you go on a more expensive vacation. You're doing all these different things to try to fix what's going on inside of you. Now, I'm not saying that, getting a new car is just trying to always fix something inside of you. That's not necessarily the case. But for most people, because we haven't been taught how to deal with the internal aspects that we deal with regularly, to deal with our emotions in a healthy way, we do use a lot of these external things, escapes, to try to remedy whatever's going on inside. It's the same thing, getting addicted to social media and just scrolling on social media, binge watching TV. You're using it as some form of escape most of the time, a lot of the time, to try to get away from the uncomfortable situations going on within, whatever those thoughts might be. It's just numbing yourself to what's going on internally using external means. So it's becoming aware of that, and it's starting to challenge yourself. Okay, why am I doing this right now? Why do I want to go after that thing? Why do I want to, sit and scroll on social media? Why do I want to do, all these different things that I do? And starting to get a better understanding of why it is that you're doing those things, so that you can objectively look at your life and start to realize maybe where the issues are. Maybe what's going on that you're not looking at, that you don't want to deal with. And sometimes you don't even know really that there's something going on, because it has become so normal to you that you don't even think about it. This is just how it is. Life is just this way, right? I just feel this way. This is who I am. This is the person that I am. You have this identity that you've built up or created around being whatever that person is that you are, or that you think you are. And because of that, you continue to just go along in life thinking that, hey, I am this type of person. You can continue to do that, or you can start to look at your life in a way and start to think, okay, why am I this type of person? Why do I always act this way or react this way? Why do I respond the way that I do? Why do I do the different things that I do? Is there something internally where I am not feeling whole or complete that maybe I should start to consider and look at? Because you could go your whole life without having those thoughts. You could go your entire life without thinking anything within that line of reasoning. And by the time you get old, wonder what happened. Where did life go? Why did I live the life that I lived and, feel like I was stressed out or depressed or anxiety ridden or just always angry? Feelings of just constant bitterness, whatever it might be that you're dealing with, but you don't even know that you're dealing with that right now because you're not taking time to really consider it, to think about what it is that might be going on. One of the things that causes us to, I guess, go through this is that, well, one, like I mentioned, we aren't taught how to regulate our emotions, how to regulate our thoughts. But it's also because we are blaming whatever's out there, our external situations or circumstances that we're going through. You're going through something and it's external, and so it's easier to blame that thing than to blame yourself. And I'm not necessarily saying that it's always your fault, but it is your fault on how you act or react to that. How long you hold on to whatever that feeling is. That is your responsibility. You can either let it go or you can hold on to it and allow it to fester. I mean, that's your choice. So it's getting to that point where you start to think, okay, this event happened. It made me upset, it made me frustrated, made me angry, it made me sad, made me feel shameful or guilty, whatever that situation is for you. I went through that thing. Now, how long are you going to hold on to it? How long are you going to allow yourself to continually think about it, to continually go back and ruminate on it? Or are you able to just let it go? When you are holding on to things, or you're getting angry at somebody and you're holding on to that anger for a while, that's your responsibility. You may not have caused the issue or the problem, but you holding on to whatever those emotions are is your responsibility. A lot of times what happens is you just get caught up in this thinking, feeling loop about how unfair that situation might have been. Or if you would have said something different, maybe it would have changed. Or if you would have acted differently, maybe your life would be different, or you wouldn't have that type of relationship, or whatever, right? So we're blaming those things out there, saying, oh, it's because that thing happened that has caused me to feel the way that I do, and has caused me to live whatever life I'm living. But if you want to change your life, if you want to get to the point where you start to excel in life and start to move forward in a way where you have more peace, more joy, more happiness, more love, compassion, you want all the good aspects of life, you have to start taking responsibility for some of those thinking and feeling patterns that you are allowing yourself to continue to live in daily. The sooner that you can do that, the sooner you can really start to take charge. You have to start to take responsibility for yourself first, though. This is one of the things that I didn't realize when I was dealing with depression, that I could just start to take responsibility for the depression that I was dealing with. I wasn't doing that, though. I was blaming everything else outside of me. My family situations, my childhood, growing up the way that I did, the different people that I had encounters with, the bad relationships that I might have had, the, not progressing in life the way that I thought I should have, and, all these different situations that might have come up or scenarios that happened that I wish they wouldn't have happened the way that they did. And not having, even specific resources that I wish I would have had when I was younger. Using all of those things to say, oh, all of this is happening, so that's why I don't feel good about myself. And so I'm depressed. And then worrying about the future. Thinking about, well, if I don't have enough money to do this thing, or I want to do this thing, but I don't know how, and it doesn't seem like it's a viable option because I don't have what it takes, or I'm not smart enough, or whatever that might be. It's always these excuses on the outside rather than just going, dude, don't be an idiot. Like, take charge of your own mind. Take charge of your life. Stop allowing yourself to go into this pity party mode where you are blaming everybody except yourself. Because if I would have started to take responsibility for what I was thinking, how I was thinking, the thoughts that I had, my actions, the way that I responded, the way that I reacted, if I would have taken that into consideration, if I would have been conscious of how I was living, I could have drastically changed my life way sooner than I did. But I spent a lot of time dealing with depression because, first of all, I didn't understand what to do. But then second, I just wasn't taking responsibility for my own thoughts and my own feelings. And that kept me trapped for a very, very long time. But it's when I started to take responsibility, when I started to think about it in a different way and started to see, oh, okay, this is me. It's my thoughts that are keeping me bound where I am. The reason that I'm not moving forward in the way that I want to in life in general is because I am holding myself back. It's by not letting go of the different situations that I had been through. Not letting go of the different relationships that I might have had is what held me back, kept me held back in life. But it's because I was too busy up here in my mind blaming everything out there, as opposed to saying, hey, you need to take responsibility. This thing right here between your ears, you need to get that in order. You need to start to master this so that it isn't running your life. You run your life. That can be difficult to do. It's hard to do. But that's why I'm putting out these videos. That's why I'm talking about the things that I'm talking about, because it is possible. It is possible. I tried taking depression medication and it didn't really work very well. Maybe in the beginning it worked a little bit and then it just didn't do anything. So I stopped taking that medication. And I ended up figuring out how to do this on my own without medication. And a part of it is just, you've got to get a hold of your mind. You've got to get in, you've got to take control of this thing. And if you can learn to start to do that, you can drastically change your life. But it takes time, it takes practice, it takes work, it takes allowing yourself to go in and actually be okay with sitting with the different things that are going on that might be uncomfortable. But if you can get there and you can start to do that, I promise, things can start to change for you. The harsh truth here is that nothing changes until you start to change from the inside out. If you're going to try to change from the outside in by changing your external situation, circumstances, relationships, getting more money, a better job, promotions, having a new house, nicer cars, nicer vacations, better friends, whatever it is that you're trying to do, if you're going that route, at some point, like I said earlier, you're going to drop back down to whatever your homeostasis level is. And a great way to think about this is money, right? If you're worried about money and you're worried about how to pay your bills and you're not sure what you're going to do, okay? And you're trying to get a new job or a promotion at work. If you get that new job or that promotion, right? And you start to make more money, what ends up happening is that your level here, this, this is your initial level, your homeostasis. This is where you end up going. What happens is this starts to drop down to meet you at the level of your homeostasis, your baseline, because you have not upgraded that baseline or homeostasis. You have not changed internally to get this piece here to move up to this level. So this level is going to start to move down. Does that make sense? It will. That goes into your spending habits. How well you manage your money. If it's just a money issue that we're talking about right now, what ends up happening is you go out and you start to buy more expensive things. You get another car, you buy a bigger house, whatever. You go on more vacations, nicer vacations. You start to spend more of what you're earning, and that ends up dropping down so that you're still stressed, you still feel anxiety, you're still worried about the future. You might become depressed again because your bills are stacking up, it's getting more expensive, and now what do you have to do? You either have to get another promotion, you have to find another job that pays more, something along those lines so that you can raise yourself above that homeostasis line. And then what happens? It falls back down because you're not doing the work internally to change who you are inside. You're trying to do that through the outside circumstances and situations, and that is never going to fill you. It's never going to change you. It's never going to heal whatever's going on inside, whatever that broken piece might be, that void that you feel. Those things cannot do that. So you have to get to the point where you learn, okay, I'm dealing with something. I'm going to figure out how to go internally and fix that. That's what you need to do. When you live from the outside, your emotional state is dictated by things that you can't control. Because the truth is, you can't control anything outside of you. You might have a little bit of control over things, but the majority of the time, you don't have any control. You only have so much control that you can, exert on a situation. There's only so much control that you can have over another person. You think about your kids. You try to tell your kids to do something, they might do it. How long does it take before you get frustrated with your kids because they're not doing the thing that you've asked them to do? I mean, they're completely autonomous individuals, and we have a small amount of control over them where we can try to lead them and guide them and nurture them and show them how to live in a right way within the world. But there's a lot of times where they're just going to make decisions that are stupid, and you have no control over that. You cannot stop it from happening. It's going to happen at some point in time. So it's learning that, okay, I can't control those things out there, but if you allow your life to be dictated by that, it's going to be a more difficult life. You're going to be more anxious. You're going to be worried. You're going to live in fear and insecurity. You're going to be more angry. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to deal with more shame and guilt, jealousy, envy, because it's always that out there that causes you to feel the way that you do. So if you want to change, you have to stop looking at that outside. You have to stop projecting all the negativity that is just the outside and blaming everything outside of you. Start to take responsibility for how you think about your life, how you feel about your life. Many times our obsession with performance, achievement, developing a bigger, better image is a way to hide different insecurities and fears that we have, different worries that we have. I mean, I think about when I was dealing with the depression, I would go to work and I would put a mask on and pretend like everything was okay. I'd joke around, try to be funny. And I think part of that was me trying to lift myself out of whatever situation I was in, but it's also a way to try to protect myself to keep other people from knowing how miserable I felt inside. I didn't want them to know that I felt just so bad. So I would, be a different person around, the people that I didn't know as well. But when I come home, I would just be so depressed and miserable. I feel so bad. I mean, I would always have to keep myself busy doing something just because if I sat and I was still, it would just creep in and it was just so overwhelming. The misery was so overwhelming. I tried to run from it as much as possible. And a lot of times that's what people are doing. It's hard to sit still in peace and quiet because there's so much chaos that goes on in your mind and you don't know how to deal with that chaos. So you try to fill it with something. You work harder, longer hours. If you're not working, you have projects that you're just constantly doing. You just go, 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 as much as possible. Or watching TV, or scrolling, or just doing something other than being alone by yourself with your thoughts. That is hard to do. If you can allow yourself to get to that place, though, where you can just kind of sit back and be still with your thoughts, that can really show you what's going on with your life. That can show you that, hey, there's a lot of chaos going on in my mind right now. There's a lot of chaos going on in my body with the different emotions that I'm feeling. Something else that goes along with this is the idea that it's hard to find peace because you're so used to chaos. Like I said earlier, the way that you feel right now feels normal to you. It feels like this is who I am. This is my identity. But just because you feel that way doesn't mean that you can't change. But if you're looking for peace and you're trying to find some sort of joy or happiness in your life, you're trying to find a way to feel valued, to feel appreciated, any of those things, it's because you're living with a certain aspect of chaos internally, and it's too difficult to sit and just be by yourself internally. So that's why you're looking to external means to try to fill whatever's happening inside. There's a great quote by Tom Bilyeu where he says, the only thing that matters is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. I love that quote. Because it's so true. If you can't sit by yourself and be happy, there's something wrong. There's something missing. There's something not quite right. If you can't sit by yourself and enjoy yourself, enjoy being in your presence without having to do anything, without having to, work on a project or just watch TV or anything like that. Like, sit in a room by yourself with nothing going on and just start to see how you feel. If you can do that and you feel good about yourself, you're probably in a pretty good place. But if you can't do that and you start to get really uncomfortable, you start to think thoughts that start to lead you down a path of rumination about why this situation happened the way that it did, or this conversation that you had with this other person that was frustrating, and you start to generate these different negative emotions because you're so used to feeling that way. When you sit in peace, it's like you can't sit there in peace without starting to bring in or introduce some of that chaos. I did this all the time. And I think this is something that people, you do it because you don't realize that you do it. It has become so ingrained into the ways of thinking and feeling that it does, like I said earlier, feel normal. This is just who I am. This is my identity. I am this person. You start to label yourself as those different things because it's so normal. It's comfortable to you. Peace has now become an uncomfortable process. That's why we need to start looking at, okay, how do I change this? How do I go in and start to change this whole concept of who I am? Creating essentially a new identity for yourself. I wrote about this not too long ago on my blog. You can go to josiahthibodeau.com and you can read the article that I wrote about identity. And it's not that you are stuck as that person. Now, there are certain personality traits that are a central core piece of your being, being introverted versus extroverted. There's that whole Myers-Briggs personality test that you can do that shows you, who you are, and it breaks down the different types of personalities. A lot of that is just kind of built in. But it doesn't mean that just because you're an introverted person that you have to be a depressed person. Or if you're an extroverted person that you're dealing with whatever it is that you're dealing with, and this is just what extroverted people have to deal with. It doesn't have to be that way. You can find peace and joy regardless of what your personality is, and you can start to change that identity. It's how you view yourself. It's how you see yourself within the world. There are plenty of people, extroverted or introverted, that deal with depression, that deal with anxiety, that deal with fear and insecurity, feeling like they're not good enough, they're not worthy enough, that they don't have what it takes, they're not smart enough. Any situation, they're filled with shame or guilt, crippling fear, just constantly feeling like a failure. They're never going to measure up. But that isn't who they are. That's just who they believe they are. You can absolutely go in and change that mindset. It's just, are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to go in and actually take a look and see what's going on? Are you willing to go in and actually do what it takes to change who you are and create that new identity for yourself. Are you willing to do that? That is getting honest with yourself. And when you can get honest with yourself, you don't need to necessarily worry about validation from the world. You don't have to worry about validation from people that you work with, from your friends or family, from strangers, because you've accomplished these different things, right? People aren't looking at you and be like, wow, look at that guy. Look at that car that he drives. Look at that girl. Wow, how does she get that house? Right? We use that a lot of times to make ourselves feel good because now other people can see how successful we are and how well we're doing in life. So that makes us feel good for a moment until you start to see somebody who's doing better than you. And then you start to feel a little bit bad about yourself because you're not doing as well as that person is. But guess what? They feel the same way because they're not doing as well as the next person, right? But when you can get out of that trap and you can start to heal what's going on inside, you don't necessarily need to worry about that anymore. Now achieving isn't to try to prove yourself to anybody else. It's just to do it just because it's fun. Now I get to do things because I want to do things, right? That can become your mentality. Now I can go after the things that I want to go after just because I want to. And it doesn't mean anything whether I get it or not. It doesn't matter. I'm just doing this to have fun. I'm living life. I'm finding something that I can go after that I really believe in, that gives me a sense of purpose. And it doesn't matter if I actually get there or not. Just the fact of going after that thing gives me meaning and purpose. The end goal isn't what gives me meaning and purpose. It's the chasing that's giving me that meaning and purpose, that I'm doing something to help other people, or I'm creating this thing that's going to help other people or entertain people or whatever it is. But it isn't relying on the validation coming from the other people. You're just doing it because you love to do it. You're just doing it because that is who you are. And it doesn't matter if anybody claps for you. It doesn't matter if anybody says, hey, you did a great job. You've done so much in the world. We thank you for that, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter anymore. There are many people who have lived this life who have changed the world, and they did it because they already had a great sense of self, of who they are internally, not needing the validation from anybody out there. What's difficult in our world right now is we have as many different types of television programs that you can watch, movies that you can watch, books that you can read, social media on all different platforms, showing things that really a lot of times make us feel like we aren't living up to the standards that we should be living, because it's constantly just being shoved down our throats. Like, this is what success looks like. Become this person, you will feel good about yourself. But that's not true. There are plenty of people who are struggling and they're extremely successful, and they're struggling internally because they haven't learned how to deal with the internal processes. They've continued to think that it's the external that makes me feel better. But you can only hit a certain point and then you're like, man, money isn't doing anything for me anymore. Buying these houses isn't doing anything for me anymore. Having all these, different friends isn't doing anything for me anymore. You still feel lonely. You can be lonely and have 100 best friends and just still feel like there's something missing. It's missing inside. So how do you change that? How do you get in there and you start to change that? So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But the idea is that most people are reacting to life instead of living life. Something happens and then you react. This situation occurs and then you react. This person says this thing and then you react. Right? Instead of taking a breath, taking a beat, and responding in a way that is going to help propel you forward meaningfully, without a lot of frustration, without a lot of anger, bitterness, resentment, guilt, shame, fear, any of those things. It's going to allow you to progress a lot more seamlessly because you're taking a beat and you are reflecting back inward. You're going back to essentially think of it as your mission statement of who you are as a person. That I'm a peaceful person, so I don't react or respond in an angry manner. I'm a joyful person, so I don't act or respond with grief or sadness or depression or anxiety. I'm a loving person, so I don't respond, in frustration or resentment or bitterness. Because you've trained yourself how to do that. You've trained yourself how to live from that place. So how do you do that? How do you train yourself to live from that place? Well, I think one of the best things that you can do to start off is meditation, because meditation is really going to help you see how chaotic your mind is, how chaotic your emotions are. And if you don't think that they are, go sit in a dark room for an hour with no music, no light, not watching anything, not listening to anything, just you in silence, in a dark room with your eyes closed. If you can sit on the floor, legs crossed, sit on the floor, legs crossed. Maybe a little pillow under you. If you can't sit on the floor with legs crossed, sit on a chair, feet flat on the floor. Hands just resting on your lap. Just sit there for an hour. See how long you can go. I guarantee you, most people are not going to be able to make it very long, because the chaos of their mind is going to start to take over. The chaos of the body is going to start to take over. It's going to start to say, what are we doing? This doesn't make any sense. That guy's crazy. I'm not going to sit here and do this. This is so stupid. Why would we do this? You'll start to think about all the different situations going on in your life that you are struggling with. You're going to be uncomfortable physically. Your body's going to start to say, I don't want to sit here anymore. My back's starting to hurt. My legs or hips are starting to hurt. Depending on how you're sitting, you're going to start to make excuses. Oh, I'm getting creeped out. I'm getting claustrophobic. It's too dark in here. I need to turn on a light. Like, you're going to make an excuse somewhere because you cannot be comfortable with you. That's really it. That's really what it comes down to. Because if you can start to get comfortable with yourself, you can go into a dark room, turn off the lights, not listen to anything. You can sit there for an hour. And you might deal with some thoughts that are going on. Your body might get uncomfortable, but you've learned how to let go of things so well that it's just like, hey, too bad, body. I know you want to get up. I know you want to go do something else. Mind, I know you want to think about things, but we're just going to sit here. We're just going to sit here and relax. We're just going to sit here and rest. That could be hard to do. That could be very difficult to do. But it will show you what is going on in your mind. It'll show you that life is more chaotic internally than you thought it was. I mean, you could try this even for 20 minutes. I know people who struggle with 10 minutes of meditation, even in the light with music, because your mind is just rushing. You feel like you have all these things that you should do or need to do. And so you just make up excuses as to why you can't just sit in this meditation. So meditation can be a great way to show you what's actually going on. And then as you work on it, this is the other part of meditation that I like, is as you work on meditating and you start to learn how to slow everything down and to let go, it transitions into the rest of your life as well. Because you're training your mind and your body to, when the thoughts come in, you let the thought go. When the feelings come in, you let the feelings go. When being uncomfortable comes in, because whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, any of that happens, you learn to let it go. So when you go out into the real world and you start to deal with a situation that's uncomfortable, you have these emotions that come up, these thoughts that come in, what do? You learn to let them go. Now, this doesn't mean that you never get angry again. It doesn't mean that you never are out of alignment with peace or joy or love or any of those things. You still have those situations that happen that pull you into anger or frustration or jealousy or whatever. I mean, I was listening to this reel by Denzel Washington talking about this. First thing you should do in the morning is get up and meditate and just allow yourself to sit in peace. But just because you do that doesn't mean when you go out and get on the highway, you don't get angry because somebody cuts you off. But how quickly can you get back to that peace? There's a lot of people who talk about this. It's not about never being angry. It's not about never being frustrated or upset. It's how fast can you return to the peace, to the joy, the happiness, the gratitude, the things that you want in life. So you are chasing things in life thinking that I want this new house or this new car or this promotion or whatever it is that you're chasing. You're chasing that because that in your mind is going to give you the sense of peace that you're missing inside, the sense of worth, of love that you're missing inside. So you're chasing these outside things to try to fill that void of whatever is missing there, the peace, the joy, the love, all of that we've discussed. But that's where that falls apart because, like I said earlier, it eventually falls to your homeostasis of where you are, of feeling a lack of peace, a lack of joy, a lack of love. So that's why those things don't fulfill you. It might work as a band-aid over time, but you don't need a band-aid, you need stitches. You can't close a gaping wound with a band-aid. You have to stitch it up in order for things to heal appropriately. And that's what you're doing here. So meditation can be a great way to do that. A great way to go in and start to take control of your mind and your life. The other thing is that you have to become cognizant, recognize the thoughts that you think on a regular basis. I don't remember what the study is, but they're basically saying that the thoughts that you think every single day are almost, I think it was around 90% the same as the thoughts that you thought the day before. 90% the same as the thoughts that you thought the day before that. So essentially what you're doing is you are living the same day over and over and over and over again. Just little changes, little tweaks here and there, the different circumstances or situations that you deal with, the people that you talk to, that changes a little bit. But overall, you're thinking the same thoughts. That's why you don't change. Because you're not doing anything to change those thoughts that you think. So when you become aware of what you're actually thinking, when you become aware of what you're actually feeling, then you can start to go in and you can start to work on that. You can start to say, oh, okay, I see right now. I am feeling angry. I didn't know that I was feeling angry because I'm not conscious of it normally. But you go in and you start to realize that and you start to see, oh, okay, that's what's going on. You're struggling with anger. So you catch it, and you're like, okay, I don't want to be angry. I want to be at peace. I need to let this anger go. See how it loops back to the whole meditation practice? But it's becoming aware of what's actually going on within you. Now you can read books. You can go to therapy. There's a lot of different methods that you can take to start to take control of your life. There's a lot of different roads or paths that you can go down to start to take control of your life so that you can get to the point where you live within peace and joy and happiness and gratitude and just feeling good overall. Starting to understand that, oh, I don't need these external validations or these external things to make me feel good about myself. Now, again, I'm not saying you don't ever do that stuff. I'm not saying you can't go out and buy a new car or get a new house or go on a vacation or anything like that. That's fine. But it's why are you doing that? Is there something that you're trying to fix internally? If there is, address whatever's going on internally. Stop running from it. The more that we can all learn how to do this, the sooner we can start to change the world for the better. Because it's chasing the external, pushing and blaming everything else that causes us to create more problems in the world because we become greedy as a result. We live out of states of anger as a result. So when you can learn to take care of these emotions and these thoughts, though, you can switch that around. You don't live for greed. It doesn't matter anymore. You're more likely to maybe when you make more money, give that money away. Instead of being angry and wanting to fight, you want to make peace with people instead. But it's changing that mindset. It's changing the way that you think that is going to get you to that place. So I hope all of this makes sense. I hope you enjoyed today's message. If you did, please leave me a comment. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you again in the next one. If you enjoyed today's episode, first of all, I would like to say thank you for watching or listening. The second thing I would like to do is ask you for a huge favor, and that is for you to like the video, comment on the video, subscribe or follow my channel, and probably most importantly, share with your social network so that together we can work on changing the world and making it a better place. Again, thank you for watching or listening, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.